Hello, Alberto. Thank you so much for being here. We are very happy to have you here.
Thanks for inviting me.
Would you like to introduce yourself? Who are you and what is your role at your university?
I am Alberto Cattaneo. I am professor at SFUVET, the Swiss Federal University for Vocational Education and Training, which is also EAB, HFP, SUFP, as you know. And being a professor there for me means mainly two things. I am in charge of a training course for teacher students dealing with how to integrate technologies effectively in vocational education and in professional education and training. And I also lead a research group on the same topic, I would say, so on investigating under which conditions using technologies can be effective for both teaching and learning processes.
Mm-hmm. Your research focuses on extended reality in vocational education. What drives your research or what motivates you to conduct research in this area?
I think that to answer this question, a necessary premise is needed. And the premise is the awareness that technology per se makes no miracles, so has no magic power and no automatic effects on learning. However, technologies have some affordances that, under some circumstances, can make them effective for supporting teaching and learning processes. And this is also true for extended reality, which, as you said, at the moment constitutes a big portion of my research activity, of my research interest. And also in this case, we want to test and to investigate which are the conditions that make a XR effective. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, avoiding the risk of overgeneralization, which is always a possible risk.
Yeah. Yeah. And can you give us a concrete example of how extended reality can be used in vocational education?
Yes, of course. We can have several examples, both from our own lab and from other labs, from colleagues. So, for example, one example that comes to my mind is an example of a project we managed and we led several years ago in collaboration with the PFL. This was about augmented reality with logisticians, and they had to learn the flow of goods, which is a very abstract concept. So we gave them tangible shelves, small shelves, and they could arrange them to prepare a storage room and to see the capacity of the storage room. Okay. And this was provided by augmented reality. So this is one example. But if you think about VR, other traditional examples are when you use VR for operating in dangerous situations, for training how to operate in dangerous situations, or when you have to deal with expensive, costly procedures, or again when you have uncommon procedures that does not happen very often, but you have to be trained on them. So, coming to this point, in the latest period at SFUVET we are focusing our attention on video-based virtual reality, which is also known as 360 video. And also in this case you can see a specific affordance, because in some situations you need to have the highest degree as possible, the highest degree of realism as possible, combined with immersion. And this in some situations can make a difference. For example, in one project we managed, thanks to BeLearn, we worked with paramedics and they had to perform a rescue. And in this case, together with teachers, we thought that having the highest degree of realism could be a benefit and added value. And this is also the case, for example, when emotional management is important for professionals, and this indeed applies to other projects of ours.
And what are the biggest challenges you have encountered in implementing extended reality in educational settings?
I'm not sure if these are the biggest challenges, and I also have to say that we always found a way to face them, also thanks to BeLearn, thanks to the partners in the field. However, I would mention the costs, the costs for development of the virtual environment, as well as the cost for the infrastructures, for the helmets, for the devices. Familiarity, so these are still innovative technologies for most of the people, both thinking about students and teachers. And also competence which applies again both to teachers and students. So these three are the first challenges that come to my mind.
And when you look back, what has surprised you most in your research findings so far?
Again, I can't say that it was a full surprise, but sometimes you realize that with new technologies, you also have to adjust your prior knowledge. You have to adjust what you know about the topic. So for example, we noticed that some design principles that work with traditional multimedia materials work differently when you use AR or VR. And this is intriguing for me and brings me to investigate further.
Yep. Yep. And where do you see extended reality in vocational education heading in the next 5 or maybe 10 years?
This is a difficult question, of course, because I can't foresee the future. And I also have to say that depending on the moment, I have different feelings about this kind of future, of possible future. However, I hope that they will have their own placement in the realm of educational technologies. Probably we also have to clearly distinguish education from practice, education from business, in the sense that within the world of vocations, the role of this technology have already now in big companies is important, which is not necessarily the case in schools. So I want to clarify this point because we are focusing on the role that AR and VR can have for supporting learning, not for supporting executing, which is something different. Maybe just executing with the support of AR could be simpler, easier than learning through AR.
So learning is connected to schools. So what needs to happen for extended reality to become more widely opened or adopted in schools?
I would say that diffusion is something central, and diffusion relates to what I already mentioned, meaning costs and familiarity. So cost reduction and increase of familiarity could be anticipators of diffusion. Of course, technology is continuously developing, so what we use now could not be what we will use in a couple of years, of course, and this makes the issue even more complex and complicated, but I think that if experiences like BeLearn will continue, we will have bigger chances to disseminate and diffuse these technologies in schools.
So do you also think that these are the biggest obstacles preventing research from reaching classrooms?
Could be that this constitutes obstacles, of course, as we said. When doing research, I think that it partially depends also on how you pose it. So my experience and my approach in the field has always been the same since more than 20 years, meaning that usually I don't ask teachers to test something I planned in advance. Rather, I identify or I try to identify with them some possible common interests or a common problem, a problem to solve in the field for them, and I start from this. And then we co-design together, we co-design the intervention. And in this way, even if it is oriented to theory, research, even when it is oriented to theory, research has also the flavor of being directly applied or applicable. So practice-oriented and theory-based research can coexist. It's not either one or the other. They can live together. Maybe the first intervention, when you do the first intervention, you need a bit more of structure, a bit more of scaffold in terms of instruments for research. But once research has the results it's looking for, you you can get rid of this scaffold and continue using the technological solution in practice. But with an additional awareness, because research results will provide you this awareness about the pro and contra of technology.
Yeah. You mentioned co-designing with educational practice. Is this how you are also working to get your research findings into actual classrooms?
Yes, being co-designed since the beginning, it's already within the classrooms.
Yeah.
And in practice, in the realm of practice. But of course, this is not the only way we can proceed. So I'm lucky because, as I said at the beginning, I am also in charge of a training course for student teachers. They are already in-service teachers, so they can directly test some solutions in the field. So teaching in training courses is another good opportunity, both in basic and in further training, as well as specific events. So we always participate to conferences, to congresses, to practice-oriented or practitioner-oriented events, and this is another way to disseminate our research findings and to involve other people.
Yeah. And what are you most excited about in your upcoming research?
I am always excited by my research because we always find something that makes us passionate, challenged, and curious about the results. So these are what drives me. At the moment, however, we succeeded, if I have to mention one specific point, we succeeded in integrating a further step, which is what we call multimodal research, which means using physiological measures as a complementary measure independently from the other ones to check the effectiveness of our interventions. So, although I don't think we can use these kind of measures directly in schools, as I said, these measures allow us to have an additional proof about what works and what doesn't work, at least when we have in place the scaffolding I spoke about before, and then we can remove it, of course.
Okay. And how has being part of BeLearn benefited you and also your research?
I think that being part of a hub and of the related community, as it is BeLearn, is always a benefit. It allows you to meet people, to meet other people than your research team, to discuss with them your idea or to listen to their idea, to generate new ideas together, and finally to be part of an ecosystem made by research, practice, and why not also politics. And this on top of the funding opportunities that the hub provides you. Then it's true that it takes time. Probably we are still in the middle of it. We are continuing building it, but I'm sure it will give it more results than now soon, and it will surely pay off.
And what has been the most valuable aspect of BeLearn for your work? Is it also that community and the hub, or are there also other points?
No, I think that, as I already mentioned, being part of this ecosystem is one of the most important added value. At the same time, I think that there is a specific character distinguishing BeLearn, which is translation. So you put a lot of emphasis on this, and I am happy for that because, as I said, it mirrors my approach to research since several years. So this is a value, and this allows us not to renounce to high quality and high standard research, and at the same time it doesn't prevent us to aim for impact in practice. As I said, sometimes it makes your life a bit more difficult, but it also gives you a clear vision and a clear direction.
Yeah. And if you had to describe BeLearn in 3 words, what would they be?
I think I already mentioned at least 2 of the 3. The first is the hub, and whatever it implies in terms of community, relationship, networking, and so on. The second is innovation, and I'm very glad that you can perceive it also from the physical hub where we can stay at BeLearn. And of course, this would have been the first keyword, indeed, translation, as we already commented.
And for the last question, one word to describe your experience with BeLearn.
Also in this case, it's something we already commented upon. I would say community, because whenever I come to BeLearn, I feel at home. I am always very welcome. I feel among friends, so it's very nice to discuss with colleagues, even when you don't share the same opinion, of course. It's enriching, and thanks for that.
Happy to hear that. Thank you so much, Alberto.
Thanks for inviting me once again.